We begin with breaking news out of Gaza. Israeli forces have attacked the al-Ahli hospital in Gaza City. 2 airstrikes destroyed the hospital's emergency unit, the main entrance, and a facility holding medical oxygen for intensive care patients. What was the largest remaining functioning hospital in northern Gaza is now out of service. Well, hospital staff scrambled to evacuate the facility before the strike and move patients and the injured from earlier Israeli strikes. Many are now sheltering on the streets near the hospital in the middle of the night. Well, this is the aftermath of that Israeli attack on the hospital. Rescue workers scouring through the rubble of the destroyed buildings looking for survivors. Israel has repeatedly targeted Gaza's hospitals with impunity throughout its devastating war. And now northern Gaza's only functioning hospital has been forced out of service. Al Jazeera's Tareq Azzoum spoke to us from Deir el-Balah shortly after the attack.
Israeli military warplanes have targeted the al-Ahli Baptist hospital in Gaza City multiple times just a couple of minutes ago, hitting the main entrance, the emergency unit, the surgical operations building, and the medical oxygen plant. We understand that dozens of wounded and sick people have been evacuated from the hospital and now lying in the streets surrounding the hospital with no shelter or medical care. Now, we have been speaking to and collecting first-hand accounts as the Israeli military were confirmed flying at low altitude, and there are reports of a possible renewed evacuation order for the patients there, as Gaza civil defense teams are trying to respond, warning of continued threats as the Israeli military has reportedly threatened to bomb the hospital. Again, this is a very dramatic escalation. Now, this attack carries, in fact, severe humanitarian and legal repercussions. Now, striking this major hospital in northern Gaza, especially the one that has been already overwhelmed, devastates what's left of Gaza's healthcare system in the northern part of the Strip. Now, the hospital has been put out of service, leaving thousands without access now in northern Gaza to medical treatment. We show that critically ill patients, including those in intensive care, surgeries, and emergency units, now were left without shelter or oxygen. Some, in fact, may die not just from the attack itself, but from the loss now of this medical care. It's absolutely very horrific to see that hundreds of patients, doctors, and displaced families who were sheltering in the hospital itself now have been forced to flee, likely with nowhere safe to go now.
Well, earlier my colleague Kerry Johnston spoke to Razan Al-Nahas, an emergency doctor in Gaza who has worked at Al-Ahli Hospital.
During my time there, it was very evident that the situation was already so desperate, with it being the only still functioning hospital in the region, seeing large volume of patients daily. We would receive the majority of mass casualty incidents with all of the attacks in the neighboring region. And oftentimes we were caring for patients on the floor, in the courtyard, outside. But we were doing our best with what we had, with the limited resources. Now, with this attack on the hospital, it's basically put the hospital out of service. And it really does not leave any option for patients. There's nowhere for them to go. Al-Shifa now, they have a small, they've tried to repurpose one of the outpatient clinics, and they're using it as an emergency department now. But it does not have the capabilities and services that al-Ahli Hospital had. The only CT scanner in the northern part of Gaza was at al-Ahli Hospital. So that now is, they're not going to send patients there anymore because the hospital itself is out of service. The hit, I spoke to a few colleagues there. It's impacted the lab, the pharmacy, the emergency department, all the oxygen tanks. It's quite horrific. And it's really left the people in that region with no place to go at this point.
This must be unimaginable terror. When you think of patients being strewn into the streets in the middle of the night.
From what I'm hearing, there's so many patients on the streets. Some may have made it to Shifa at this point, but I can't even imagine the scene of just patients and their family members just scattered in the streets, just trying to find their way to some place for medical care services. I'm certain that many of them will not make it. These are patients with amputated limbs, oftentimes multiple limbs, patients with traumatic abdominal and chest injuries. Many of them have had abdominal surgeries where they basically cut their entire abdomen open to look for whatever internal bleeding or injuries there are. These are patients with severe head injuries, head trauma, also, that may or may not have had surgery, and a lot of burn patients that have amputations. They're not able to get up and just evacuate and walk out. And those are the majority of patients that are admitted to this hospital are patients that are victims of these, traumatic explosive injuries, unfortunately. And these are patients that are high risk for infection, dying from infection, high risk of, further injury. They need close monitoring. The ones that have had surgery could potentially continue to have bleeding. So they're very high risk patients and patients that need to be closely monitored, not laying or, scrambling in the streets trying to find their way to another medical facility. With this hospital itself, carrying such a huge volume and load of the need in the region and already being strained and with limited resources, limited capacity, only 3 operating rooms. We worked in the emergency department without a ventilator most of the time because there wasn't one available. Now, with this hospital being destroyed, I think it leaves them with very little options. Even the remaining few hospitals have all either been targeted themselves or are just so small that they maybe only have 2, 3 beds, 4 beds in their emergency department with very minimal resources. They're not going to be able to compensate. They will. It's impossible.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.